This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of MFG Out Loud. We are so glad you're here today, and you are in for a real treat. I want to jump right in and introduce our very special guest. It is Joe Roy from the Nebraska Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and I have had the great honor of doing some webinars with the Nebraska MEP and with Joe, and working with some of his Nebraska manufacturers as clients. And I am here to tell you, this man has a wealth of experience outside and inside of manufacturing, an amazing sense of humor, and is just a real character. So I'm excited. If you don't already know Joe, we would like to introduce him to you today. Joe, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and what's happening at the Nebraska MEP?
Sure, I'd be happy to. That was a great character reference for me. I'll have to keep that in mind as a character. So, as Allison said, my name is Joe Roy, the man with two first names. They both fit on a license plate, as I like to say. And I have been with the Nebraska MEP for 5 years as their business development specialist. And the MEP is part of a national network of what they call manufacturers extension partnerships. That's what MEP stands for, that are in all 50 states in the United States plus Puerto Rico. And our mission is to help small and mid-sized manufacturers try to become more profitable, more effective, try to help them in any way possible that we can possibly do that. So that's a short version of that. I have been with the MEP, like I said, for 5 years. Before that, I spent almost 35 years in the financial and insurance industry, selling 401k plans. So I can answer your retirement questions as well as your manufacturing questions today. But we'll stay on the manufacturing subject for today.
Joe, I think that's, I want to jump right into it because I love the kind of the contrast, the industry you came from and the one you're with now. I think it's a fascinating, but in the end, ultimately kind of a logical approach. And I know you've got some insights in that. How does that transition happen, and how does that benefit manufacturers, getting that other perspective that you bring?
Right. Well, the transition happened because after 35 years in the financial world, I was kind of burned out. I mean, I had a couple things happen in my personal life that kind of pointed out to me that the time is too short in this world to keep doing something. I happened to be pretty successful in what I did previously, so I had the blessings and the wherewithal to be able to kind of be able to make a change in my life. And so I really didn't leave the financial world saying I got to get into manufacturing. That was not my objective when I left it. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but like I've told you guys before, sometimes it pays to drink beer. And I belong to a group that on Thursday nights is a group of guys. A lot of them have a soccer background, and we have a couple beers and talk about stuff and have a lot of fun. So one of the gentlemen in that group is a younger guy. He's actually could be my son, and he knew what I was looking for. And his father at that time happened to be the head of the Nebraska MEP, and he was looking for a business development specialist. So he went home and told his dad, I got this guy in my group. I think he's pretty good at developing business. I don't know if he knows anything about what the MEP is. Yeah. And so that was true. In my old world, MEP stood for Multiple Employer Plan, whereas here it stands for Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Yeah. So I had material with MEP on it, but it was not the correct material.
Oh, funny.
So that's how I got into it. And I came into it not really knowing a whole lot. Now, luckily, we had some people, including our associate director, Mike Nagel, who has a wealth of experience in the manufacturing world. And being a little bit older than a beginning salesperson, I said, I need to get what I can out of Mike. So one of the first trips we took was up to Norfolk, Nebraska, which is about 2.5 hours from Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And I questioned him the whole way up and the whole way down. And I made him tell me as much as he could on both directions. And luckily, I'm pretty good at retaining stuff because I was driving, so I couldn't really write anything down, but I'm pretty good at retaining stuff. And Mike still likes to tell the story. He says, you know, there's very few times in my life I ran out of spit. But when you asked me all those questions, that was one of the times. So that was how I kind of got into the manufacturing world. So I came in with almost no preconceived notions, and I had to learn as I worked through the manufacturers in Nebraska.
Yeah. How did that go? I mean, you know, the new guy coming through the door, you know, talking to the manufacturers for the first time. What was the reception like? Was it a different approach than from your 401k planning days? You know, how did you see it back then?
Well, luckily for me, I guess, but not necessarily luckily for manufacturers in the state, we were not well known at all. Nobody knew that we existed. Really, there were very few people that knew that we existed. When I joined in 2016, we had probably done maybe 25 or 30 projects in total throughout the state. So we hadn't touched many manufacturers. So I've never been averse to cold calling, and I feel like I can get through to people in a polite manner and put them at ease so that I can get in front of them. And so I would call them and say, I'm with the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. I'd like to come out and talk to you and tell you a little bit about what we do and find out a little bit about what you do. And that was accepted pretty well. And I got out there. Now, when I got out there, I didn't really have a lot in my briefcase or, you know, to pull out of my briefcase. But I did have the question of what keeps you up at night. So I had my notebook and I scribbled lots of notes, and then I'd enter them into salesforce.com so I wouldn't lose them. I'd know where everything was. So that's how it was. And, you know, candidly, for the first year, I was just gathering information probably more than anything. We have one customer now who we've done quite a bit of projects with, laughs, and he has told our current director, he says, Joe was nice when he came out, but he had nothing. So he says, I'm glad he has stuff. But what was happening was those notes were very helpful to me because I wrote down what they said. So Ray, if you said to me, you know, I've got a supply chain issue or I've got a training issue, I had that captured because I wouldn't remember that you said it or that Allison said it or whoever said it. Yeah. So we were able then to search and kind of go back and see who I talked to, find the notes, talk to people. And then I'd go out later and say, hey, guess what? I got something for you now. and so that was kind of pretty good. Is this what you need? Or you know, can we make this what you need? So that was kind of where we went with some of that.
Well, for the people listening, manufacturers listening, who maybe have never reached out to their state MEP, could you describe, like, briefly, you know, what does a project look like that you do with manufacturers?
They can take so many different ways that you can look at these things. Some of the projects we do ourselves, some of the projects we have found third parties, and this is the same in the other states. Some of the projects we get from each other state. So one of the nice things about the MEP network in total is that we can communicate with each other through websites, through emails, through boards that we have that can say, hey, I've got this issue, can you help me? And it's amazing how people from other states can reach out and give us some of those things. But to give you some ideas of some of the things we've done here in Nebraska, we've done a lot now recently with supervisor development, where we go out and we talk to them about giving some skills to their supervisors in either job relations, job instructions, and job methods. We've done some strategy work, both with some of our team on staff and some outside strategy people that we brought into businesses to help them figure out what is it that we do well, what is it that we don't do well, how do we move forward, how do we go down this way. We partnered with a cybersecurity firm to do cybersecurity assessments. We're partnering now with another firm that will do videos for manufacturers so that they can capture their things. We in Nebraska, we're affiliated with the university, and they have a world-class food processing center on campus. And Nebraska's manufacturing, if you looked at all the manufacturers in the state, about a third of them are food manufacturers. So that's a natural too. So we've been able to partner up with those people. As a matter of fact, the director who hired me is now over the food processing center because he's actually a food scientist by training. And so there's a synergism between the two of us. And so we're able to do some different projects with them. I mean, just wrote a success story, we call them, for like a food manufacturer that our people worked with, and they did some meat tempering, and they saved them millions of dollars. They improved their process by millions of dollars by the food scientists, by the engineers and the food scientists that we were involved with. So we didn't charge them millions of dollars, but they got that kind of impact. So those are some of the different things that we do, to kind of give you an idea. Now, the funniest ones were, we have done 2 translation projects. So one of the first projects I found, I went out to a guy who had bought a manufacturing company, and believe it or not, he had worked for the same financial services company I had. So we both came from the financial services business. So I went and saw this friend of mine who had this small little company with 10 or 12 people, and they made the seats that you see in car repair and airplane repair that scoot under the planes and scoot all around. Well, they had just scored a contract with an Italian firm that wanted to buy their seats, but they said, we need the instructions in Italian. So he said, can you help me? I said, I don't know. We'll find out. So I went back, and our director, who was well connected at the university, says, well, I'll reach out to a few people that I know. So he reached out to a few people, and there was a professor of Italian language who agreed to take their thing for a fee and convert their manuals into Italian, which was very helpful to his company, and helping him get that contract with the Italian people who wanted his seats. So that's a kind of an interesting story.
That's awesome. Are you still do you still see yourself as one of the better kept secrets in Nebraska, or is that getting better? I'm just wondering how that's been going. Are more companies finding their way to your door?
More companies are finding our way to our door. It is getting better. Yeah. The pandemic really helped us, believe it or not. I mean, because we were started to roll out these webinars, and we got people like Allison that we twisted their arm to come on, and some other people to get onto the webinars, and we were just able to bring content out and find out what it was that people liked and who has certain interest in what. So that was a way to connect us with a lot of those. Another thing that has happened in the last 2 years is we've formed an alliance with what we call our Nebraska Manufacturing Advisory Council, our advanced manufacturing people here in the state, and the Chamber of Commerce for the state, the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce, that we're all trying to work under one umbrella. So we're still kind of working that out, but we want them to be able to say, if you have an issue, come to the alliance, and we'll figure out who's going to help you based on what skills the different sets have. So I think there's a great potential going forward with this. I think we've just scratched the surface at this point. And we also then, the other thing that happened during the pandemic, because I had time, is I started reaching out to some of the other MEPs, and I got a lot of good information from those people over time. Great. So that was really helpful.
That is so smart. Well, one thing that I think is just such a gift that you bring to manufacturers in Nebraska, and then obviously helping other state MEPs with your experience, is you not only bring that outside experience in as a non-manufacturer who found manufacturing, but you and I have talked about how you help manufacturers kind of change their mindset, right? And look outside of manufacturing for ideas, best practices, recruiting effort. Could you share a little bit about that? I feel like you're a coach, and you really bring this great insight to them about this.
Well, I guess I try to think like a young person, even though if you could see me, you will realize I'm not brand new to the world at this point. But I still feel like I'm still learning the business world, even though I'm 62 years old. It's kind of one of those things. I do that, and I love to talk to young people, and I love to get ideas from them. So I try to think, what is it that the young people want? And so I have 2 daughters who work in different fields, and I talk to them, and I talk to their friends, and I listen to the stories, and I try to figure out what it is that they want. And really the biggest thing is to say, what's your problem and how do you solve it? So one of the things I'm really passionate about is trying to help manufacturers think about different ways to staff at this point, because everybody's bit problem. Everybody asks me, we need more people. And my kind of joking comment, if the mood is right, is I say, well, I'm working on that in my garage, but I haven't got the right formula yet. I'm working on cloning people in my garage, but I'm hoping I don't blow it up while I'm trying to do that. But that's not really the solution. So the solution is helping manufacturers think about ways to change. So picking on our own people, we had one of our people on our team said, the only way to do manufacturing is 5 8-hour days. Because he said, after 8 hours, you're burned out. And that was the traditional way of doing manufacturing. We went to a meeting and there was a human resources consultant there, and he was talking about different models. And I said, wow, there's a lot of different models. Now, a lot of our manufacturers in the state have already gone to 4 10-hour days, which I think is an improvement over 5 8-hour days, because that gives people 3 days off. And if you talk to young people, people under 40, they value time off almost as high as anything. They value it more than fancy titles, than a corner office, anything like that. So if you can come up with ways to do that, that's kind of interesting. So at one of these meetings, the one person talked about a formula that works that gets you as many days off as you have on, and that's not counting vacation days. You have to have enough people to do that. But to give you an example, we have a manufacturer out in the western part of the state who actually appeared in the movie Nomadland. So some of you might be able to figure that out, but I won't use their name on here, who is very creative in my observation of the way that they hire people. Part of it can be seen in the movie Nomadland because they hire these nomads that come in during their busy season and help them with their sugar beets when they're pulling them off the fields. Mm-hmm. But during the rest of the year, they still are operating 24/7, 7 days a week. So they've come up with a staffing model that involves everybody working 12-hour days, and over a 28-day period, you will have worked 14 12-hour days, which comes out to an average of 42 hours a week. So you're just a couple hours over the 40 hours, but that also gives you a chance to earn a couple hours of overtime, which I don't think anybody's ever complained about. But they're also off 14 days. And in every 28-day period, there's one point in there where they're off for 7 days in a row without a vacation. Thus, they could go do whatever they want to do. If they like hiking in the mountains, or they like fishing, or they like hunting, or whatever it is that they want to do, they can do it. They have time off, but they're not taking time off from work to do it. And that seems to have been very popular with them. And while they have staffing problems too, just like everybody else, I know some of their fellow manufacturers in the community that they're in, don't like the fact that they can get some people to work for them because of this fancy smancy way off, time off things. But there are ways you can start thinking about this if you have only one shift. You could play some games with the 12-hour shift. What I've been talking about recently is if you can break your group up into two, you can have three. You can have one group work 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The other group work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then flip them. And the next week you get that long time off in between. You can also give them some overtime hours if you need to. And you also have people built in if somebody goes out on vacation or goes out sick for a couple of weeks, because there's probably somebody in the other shift that says, I'm not doing anything. I'll work 6 days in a row. I don't really care. I mean, as long as you can do that legally, yeah, it's okay. So there's just different things you have to look at. And they're not always all in the manufacturing world. Sometimes you can steal ideas from other worlds to do that, because in my old world we never called it lean manufacturing, but we were always looking to become lean, but we didn't know what lean manufacturing was. But we were always trying to find more efficient ways to do stuff. So it's just how you look at it. Yeah,
that's such a big part of it. So much of manufacturing is that trying to come up with something innovative, and it's impossible until you see somebody else did it once, and then you go, right, well, I can do that better, but it starts things going. I'm really intrigued about the collaboration that you've set up. You'd mentioned, I think, between the universities there, Chamber of Commerce, you mentioned a bunch of groups that until recently were very much kind of doing their own thing. And this collaboration, it seems so obvious, but it takes, I think, some special chemistry to get that to work. Was that something that came together easily for you guys, or how did that come to pass?
Well, it kind of came to pass during the pandemic.
Okay.
Part of it may have been because some of us were doing webinars. We weren't the only ones doing webinars. There were some others doing webinars. Some people were doing different things. And people were saying, why are we doing the same things? Or I didn't know these people did this and these people did that. So we figured out how to do it. And the people in charge kind of got together. It was led by probably the Chamber of Commerce. The head of the Chamber of Commerce is a pretty forward-thinking individual, and he was behind it, saying we need to figure out how to do this. Matter of fact, the joke, I love to kid my boss about this. My boss, he was talking to my boss, and they were kind of scratching this out on paper. He goes, "Do you know that Joe guy who sends out the webinar stuff?" And Matt said, "Yeah, he works for me." He goes, "Oh, well, he's really good. I thought I might hire him or something, you know." And then Matt's like, "You can't hire." You know, it's kind of that kind of joking stuff that goes on, but it was. Yeah. So everybody has an impact when you think about this. I mean, you two do what you can, and the good news is we all decided we could talk to each other. You know, whether we agree on everything doesn't matter, as long as we can talk to each other and figure out ways that we can help. We all want to help raise the state, raise people's way of living, raise companies' profitability, and what they're doing in the state and outside the state.
Sure.
Well, and so do you feel like what's getting in the way of the average manufacturer who says, well, this is the way we've always done it? Is it fear? Is it, why? We can see that resistance is hindering some opportunities for them from the recruiting standpoint, from a productivity standpoint. I feel like from a sales and marketing standpoint. Do you think it's fear based, or do you have any theories based on your experiences with them of why they're resisting?
Well, it's somewhat fear based, but it's none of us like change. We just don't like change. You know, we go to church, we sit in the same pew. We go to a sporting event at the high school, we sit in the same part of the stands. We do our grocery shopping the same day of the week. My mother-in-law, I'll pick on my mother-in-law, who's no longer with us, but when my wife and I were first married, my mother-in-law always had popcorn on Sunday nights. That was the only night you could have popcorn. I just married into the family. It was a Saturday night. We were at their house. We were watching a movie. I said to my wife, I'm going to go upstairs and make popcorn. And my wife looked at me with utter fear in her face. Like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. I'm like, I can't make popcorn to watch a movie? I'm going to go do it. So I went upstairs, and my wife's down in the basement with her parents, and you could feel it. The thing starts popping, and my mother-in-law says, what are you doing? She yells up the stairs, said, I'm making popcorn. Her comment was, we only do that on Sundays. So I bring down the popcorn bowl. So now I push the envelope, right? I push the envelope. I bring the popcorn bowl down. My father-in-law looks at me and says, come here, sit down right here next to me. I think my father-in-law wanted popcorn on Saturday nights watching the movies for years, but he hadn't gotten to it. So it's just a human condition of saying we don't like change. We like, if we're comfortable and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves, we're not really wanting to make the hard move to make a change. We all have that problem. I mean, I'm no different than anybody else. I have to fight through it sometimes, and I don't always succeed in doing that by any stretch of the imagination, but I try to look at that like, okay, all right, I'll try this. I'm willing to try this, so. And now I got a couple grandkids, so I have to do it to stay up in touch with those two.
Exactly. Well, and so, yeah, people don't like change. So there's where the resistance comes in. And then do you think they're more afraid that it won't work or afraid that it will?
Well, that's a good question, Allison. I mean, that's a really good question. Probably a little bit of, probably depends on who we're talking to, but it's probably a little bit of both. Um, they're afraid it will or it won't. They're also afraid of the fact that, well, how am I going to do this? I mean, I'll give you one when we talk about automation. That's a subject matter now in the manufacturing world. And people say, yeah, I'm afraid of automation. Oh, I can't find people now. What am I going to do then? And I don't want to lose the good people I have. I said, well, if you automate, are you really going to fire the people you have? Or you have jobs you can't get done now. You can automate. If you can automate some of those, then you can redeploy those people elsewhere. And then they go, oh, but it's going to cost me something. Yeah, well, it will cost you something. But depending on who you are, that can make a difference. Last month, I was out west, and I went to a manufacturer who just spent $1 million on a machine to bag their bird seed. And he when I went and stopped him, he goes, yeah, I got people problems. He says, but I just took care of some of them. You want to come out and see? So he grabbed me and we went out onto this production line, and he showed me this bright new shiny machine. And actually the people who put the machine in were still there. Wow. Working on it. There were some people working on it. He says, this is going to work well. So then I started talking to him about alternating shifts and how to make that machine work a lot more than just his 10-hour day. And he was like, that's interesting. I said, yeah, you might as well. The machine's not going to break down, and it's not going to be as hard for the people to run the machine. You got to train them. So you might have to put them through some training, and that might cost you some money. But all of us don't like to spend money. We just like to make money. That's a human condition too. So when change usually involves you have to invest something, whether that's money, time, or both. You have to do something, and people are afraid to do that. So part of our job is to try to help them understand the return on investment that they can get on something like that.
I love that. Well, yeah, it's this fear of the robots are taking over, right?
Correct.
And people will be out of jobs. And I think based on many of the guests Ray and I have had on this show, it's been very eye-opening to learn it's completely the opposite. And right. Based on what you just said, right? It's actually not going to be a hindrance. It's going to be a help. And, what would it hurt to at least explore that, right. Thinking wise, right? Like, hey, what could that look like? How could right. we be more efficient?
Right.
And how could we redeploy our people?
It's even like in the fast food business in the last couple of years with the pandemic, they had change on the fly. They had to go to more takeout.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't go in there. And so some places now have decided that takeout is better. So they close down their insides or have limited hours insides, but they have more drive-through lanes or more ways to do that. I mean, and I know Chipotle is going nationally with this idea of having a drive-through lane, but it's only for pickup of stuff you've ordered on the app.
Nice.
So the drive-through lane isn't like, oh, I'm hungry, I'll just drive through Chipotle and get a burrito. No, if you want the burrito through the drive-through lane, you're going to have to get onto your phone at least and put the order in, and then you can drive through and pick it up.
Wow.
But it's just a different way of thinking about things.
Well, that's the difference between adapting when you feel like it or when you're forced to, and adapting at the speed of culture.
Right.
Right.
So here's a couple thoughts I have on manufacturers adapting. Yeah. So I hear manufacturers say, we need more young people. So who's sitting around talking about how to get young people into manufacturing? A bunch of old people like us. We're sitting around and saying, well, what do you think the young people like? Oh, I think they like this. Oh, I think they like this. Why don't we get the young people in the room and ask them the question? The same thing when they get to women. Oh, this is a great field for women. We got to get more women in manufacturing. Okay, how many women are in this meeting? Well, let's see. We got 15 old white guys in this meeting. Yeah. We don't even have any diversity besides. We got old white guys. We don't have any guys of color. We don't have any ethnic guys in there. We have nothing going. But we should have. What we really need to have in that discussion is women, all kinds of women, and maybe even some high school kids. What would make you want to go into manufacturing? You say, well, they don't know anything. I know, but they have ideas. They have thoughts. Maybe some of their thoughts align with stuff, and you can find out. It's like when I came over to work for the MEP. I looked at the brochure that we had at that time. I said, it has to be changed. Well, you know what had to be changed? The way I looked at it. The brochure didn't have to be changed much. It had to be changed some because it was typical of something written by an engineer. It had lots and lots of words and very little white space. So we had to redesign that. As you would know, Allison, in the marketing world, you have to redesign that a little bit. But reality, the information in there was good, but I had to learn why it was good.
Mm.
Interesting. So seeing it with new eyes.
Yeah, I think new eyes is I think that's one of the things that has been very beneficial for me in this. And I've been told that by some of the other people from other MEPs. They said, you know, when Nebraska hired you, everybody looked at him like, what are you doing? Why are you hiring this Yahoo? But they said, you know, really, you enhanced them, and we now see how someone with your skill set could enhance them. You know, I'm pushing our boss to hire some younger people so that we get some younger people on the team, because they bring a whole different viewpoint to the world. So,
yeah. Well, and opening up our minds to what's possible, again, I think can be a little scary. And I think you're right. I think there's a misconception that younger people don't know anything or don't know enough, and therefore, how could they have an opinion? But I think you're exactly right. And I think sometimes we're afraid of the younger generation. Like if we feel like, I think sometimes people I've talked to say they felt a little threatened, you know, because I don't understand the language they're speaking. I don't understand the words they're using. I don't, and I can relate to that a little bit. You know, I think in marketing, I felt a shift several years ago, and there was like this more youthful, you know, the next generation was kind of getting more closer to my level in terms of, you know, roles and different things. And it felt a little intimidating. Right. And I've done what you have suggested. I've since learned there's nothing to be threatened by, but only opportunity to be gained by collaborating and listening and realizing that I know what I know, but what do you know?
Right.
And maybe we can, you know, let's put that together and.
Right. And we can practice that. Most of us can practice that right in our own homes. If we talk to our kids or our relatives that are younger, because that's a non-threatening place to do it. And you can learn stuff from them. And you go, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. I mean, think about all the things we buy now on Amazon. It took me and my wife a little longer to get on the Amazon train than it did our daughters. But our daughters finally got us on the Amazon train. But if you want that specific thing, the easiest place to find it, Dad, is on Amazon.
Yeah.
Old habits die hard.
Well, and the convergence that's happening. You bring up the Amazon, example. A lot of what we're talking about how manufacturers adapt and how they engage with the market and everything. It's the whole notion of B2C is beginning to converge with B2B. And the Amazon mindset. I want to be able to find something or do the research on my phone. Do all of the information gathering myself. I want to be able to control my buyer's journey, by myself. All of those things are so very different. It's not, it's no longer, well, how do you do sales? Well, we've got old Bob. Boy, does he know how to buy a steak and hit a golf ball, and everybody just loves Bob. And, the day of the, this sales guru, this born, iconic, individual, it's over. It's
right.
It doesn't apply anymore.
It still helps to go out and see people. You learn a lot.
No question.
When you talk to them, but some of the skills you can figure out who's got those skills. I mean, I didn't realize I never thought I had a skill till I was about 40 or 45. But then when I look back on it, I realized I had a skill. When I was a kid, the first thing I ever did was I got a catalog that said I could get a bike if I sold 36 boxes of Christmas cards. And it was this really cool purple bike with the really high handlebars. And I said, I want that.
Yeah.
So what did I do? That was my motivation. So what did I do? I walked around the neighborhood and badgered my neighbors into buying Christmas cards in a nice way, mind you. But I mean, but my father was a salesperson. He was actually a safety chute salesperson. Wow. So he was in the manufacturing business, but he taught me in a nice way. Tell them why you want to, what you're working towards. That was what he taught me. Okay. So I said, I'm trying to earn a bike. I need to sell 36 boxes of Christmas cards. Would you be interested in perhaps buying a box or two? That was kind of my opening line. You know, when you're 8 years old and cute, you know, it kind of works. It kind of works. I had a couple neighbors one neighbor said, I have to take a shower, come back in 20 minutes and I'll look. And he said, I thought he would go away and never come back. And I showed up at his door 22 minutes after I was there. And he said, like, he said to my father later, he said, I was obligated. I mean, he did exactly. He was polite. He went away. He came back and asked for the order a second time. So I bought some.
You answered his objection.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You had no choice.
Yeah, right.
You had no choice. Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, man.
Sadly, we are at the end here. And I would love to ask you, before we go, is there anything we didn't talk about or ask you that you really felt like you wanted to share?
As some people know, not in the manufacturing world, I'm a big baseball guy. So in my life, there's 2 seasons, the baseball season and off. So we just morphed from the baseball season into the second season of the year called off. So those of you who like, I mean, and that's one of the ways I connect with people. So really, one of the things is I have found when I'm out talking to people, and this is a key, figure out how you can connect with them. You know, there's usually you can find some commonality with them. One of the best ways when you're out talking to people, if you're in their office, look around their office. My associates kid me about that because I'll do a scan, I'll see a picture, I'll see something, and I'll say, hey, what's with that picture? And I'll get some information out. You get the person talking about that, and now you make a connection, and that allows you to have good conversations with people, I think.
Well, yeah, and you're really good at that. I mean, you actually, I think that's the thing that I love about you the most is you're so genuine. And, you know, I think the manufacturers that you go out and talk to, they sense it immediately. Like you really care about them and their business, and you're very creative. And so I feel like, you know, Nebraska is lucky to have you. And I've been very fortunate to be able to get to know you and do webinars with you and really, I think see firsthand how you guys are impacting their businesses and their lives. Excuse me.
Right.
And it's really cool. So my hat off to you.
Thank you. This is a great job because I've been in sales all my life, but this is the first time I don't get commissioned. So I don't earn any more whether you buy from me or you don't buy from me. I'm really there to help, which is a great feeling when you can get something that helps somebody to get better at something. So that's what makes this job fun.
Well, keep bringing the fun, my friend, because it's working.
I'll keep trying. I mean, I don't want to, that's my thing, is to be perpetually a kid.
Good for you.
Well, Joe, we can't thank you for being here enough. And you are welcome back anytime, my friend.
Thank you. I enjoy it. And I enjoy listening to you guys as I walk around doing my exercises.
Well, we appreciate it. Ray, you want to take us out, buddy?
Would love to. Joe, again, thank you so much for your time. Awesome, guys. So glad we got a chance to get acquainted. To all our listeners out there, if you liked what you heard today and perhaps what you've heard in the past, please click the like button, drop us a note, or even better, tell a friend, because we sure love connecting and being here for you and for the rest of the folks in the manufacturing industry. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the usual good spots. So check out our previous episodes. Check out this episode. Share it with your friends. And by all means, please keep manufacturing out loud because we need you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.